think literally the only classes that got good builds are Druid and Barb. Every other class got shafted so far. Just in terms of like how interesting their builds are to put together. And like,
I mean, rogues are neat.
I mean, they're scuffed as fuck though. Like to play.
In what regard? Having never played one, tell me about it.
I don't know.
The most fluid class to play in D4. Super smooth.
Even Sato said they're not smooth, but Sato Randall said they're not smooth. I don't know. I think Dirty Boy's playing a rogue. How does he feel about it? He feels rogue's good. I mean, Sork's a fucking disaster. So's Necro.
You definitely got me on the Necro one.
And I think Druid's also pretty scuffed, but I think that's mostly that Druid feels good because it has the viability of doing a build that runs fast and casts while running.
Druid is hog. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm super happy to be spending this much time with the class. It's the best one. Everything about it is neat.
Class.
Barb said
A bit.
Well, Wario said Barb was terrible, but that the only way to make it to remedy it is to play Thorns, so you don't actually have to hit your buttons. And I mean, I think Barb is strong because of the amount of weapons it gets, but that it is not smooth to play.
It's the shouts. It's shouts and 4 weapons.
Yeah, I don't think Barb was done in a very interesting way.
I was under the impression that like the only viable Necro build was Bone Spear, and that every like minions was bad. They gutted the Blood Nova build.
Minions are pretty bad. I mean, there's been developments since you stopped playing, but you know, there's a Nightmare 100 Necro now. That's pretty
Is it
strong.
Bone Spear? Because I know Bone
No.
Spear's good.
No, it's immune to damage though. That's a little problematic.
Oh, it's gonna get gutted then.
How is that problematic? Why can't they be immune to damage? Like, that's fine. I guarantee, because they don't have
Run
a
that one
movement
back.
skill. They don't have a movement skill. It's okay if they're immune to damage. They crawl.
I'm not using this term figuratively.
Like, okay, I still think it's okay if they're immune to damage. They move like a snail.
Well, you just beat every content when you're immune to damage.
Okay, that's the point of an RPG.
Well, you'll be happy to know that all classes have killed Lilith at this point, and all classes legitimately killed Lilith at this point, and all classes have also cleared 100.
But will Blizzard be happy to know that?
Probably not.
Really seems like they did not want us to clear Nightmare 100, nor Lilith.
Yeah, by the way that they absolutely borked the defenses right before the game came out. Hopefully they'll give some
Did
reason.
Did you see what Northward did to Lilith?
Yep.
Intended.
Randall brought up that Lilith isn't actually content, it's a honeypot, and if you ever go kill her, that's the builds that are going to get nerfed. Anything you use to kill her is just going to get gutted.
That's what Ben said when he killed him.
Oh, Randall said that, though.
No, you got that from
I
Ben.
mean, not
No,
coincidentally,
Randall said
all of the strongest builds are the ones doing the hardest content.
Yes, that's, I mean, obviously.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to nerf anything,
But why though?
Egg would say, why nerf?
Why just buff all the other stuff? The build, people are playing those builds, one, because they do damage, but also because the other builds are literally unplayably clunky, and do not work, do not feel good. Even so, Sort does not feel good to play. I'm gonna say it. Whatever you play on Sort does not feel good. You do not feel powerful. You do not feel smooth. You are a clunky piece of shit, resource hungry. It is not good. And from my understanding of Ziach playing Necro, and other people play Necro. Necro's the same. Necro's even worse than that.
Did you just call the class whose best build is a basic attack build resource starved?
Its best build is an Arcalash.
Oh, well, I mean,
Arcalash is like a mid
sorry,
tier best.
you're right. Ice Shards is a spender. You just have full mana all times, always.
Not when you're hitting less. Not when you're hitting only one mob. Unless you completely change your build to be a bossing build.
Okay, so kind of got lost in the weeds here. Where are we at with the you hate D3, it's not that bad argument?
D4, you mean?
D4, sure.
I think it is that bad. I think the respec cost has been a dumb decision for a long time, and I think it has continued to be a dumb decision. I think the way that we can respec Paragon boards is dumb, or that needs a lot of changes made to it, and also needs to not cost gold, because why? I think the 5-tap upgrade system on items is kind of pointless, and I'm not exactly sure why it exists. It's barely even a gold sink. The re-rolling is somehow worse than D3. Namely, you cannot look at what your results could possibly be. You can only roll and then have to know what the range is through out-of-game sites, which I guess isn't that big of a deal, but it's just worse for no reason. Also is just ridiculously expensive. But I mean, that's not terrible. I can understand the philosophy behind having.
I think that's the worst part about it. More
Making
so than
gold
those
valuable.
It's not making gold valuable.
That
It's unrealistic gold sink. Like, it's not
I think
reasonable to roll an item.
Very, very high, very fast, and
I would agree with you. The enchanting costs are a little too steep. They could be taken down a notch.
yeah.
It could be like 90% less.
I'd probably settle with like 50% less instead. That's probably an okay spot.
It is an arm and a leg to roll anything.
I think not having a crafting system is pretty bad for the style of loot that they're trying to go after, where you're trying to get multiple specific stats on a base. I
have a strong inkling that will come, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not there now. I think a lot of the mounts, while the mount does behave like a horse, I don't want it to behave like a horse. I want it to behave like a mount. It is, at least last I played, maybe they've fixed it since then, was still having the issue of every time I would mount up on my horse, it would like just run into a invisible wall and like fail to move forward for a bit. And then when I was going through load zones, and granted, my computer is shit, so it could definitely play a part, but it would like just get stuck running through load screens. Also, why are there just random ass barriers on the ground that don't show up on the minimap? Like, if you're gonna have them, make them show up on the minimap. If you're not gonna have them, that's all the better. The level scaling, I don't think fits well with how you progress characters in an ARPG. I think that
Well, the scaling is a straight MMO mechanic and should stay in there.
it's an open world mechanic.
Yeah.
MMOs don't. Well, I guess some of them
MMOs do. Most modern MMOs do have level scale.
Okay, I got it. The
Trade legendaries, agreed.
Yeah, legendaries are just rares. You should be able to trade them. Additionally, the whole aspect system, I think, lends to a big problem. And Sork has this the worst. And this ties into not being able to respec for free, which should be in the game. But
Here's my here's one take going back
Yeah.
there. I think I think legendaries should be kept as untradeable. I think imprinting something should make it account bound, or legendary should remain untradeable. Aspects should be tradable.
I think if you have a legendary that drops and you haven't imprinted it yet, until a legendary gets imprinted on it, should be tradable. Because you're just trading a rare with an aspect on it. So don't make somebody go trade it, take the aspect off of it and trade it. Just let them trade the legendary with an aspect.
You can't take the aspect off of it because it deletes the item.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
legendaries are just rares until you imprint them. They become something different technically once you imprint them. So it's like if it's just a legendary that drops on the ground that hasn't been imprinted yet, trade it. Let people trade it. It's like, why not? It's so fucking backwards.
So, I think the aspect system brings up a fundamental problem of your playstyle does not change drastically as you level up and as you get more gear. Once you have the aspects for your character, and this can happen very quickly, especially the core aspects that modify skill interactions, you are pretty much how your character is going to play for the rest of that character's life. Unless you respec it, which again, you're
but that
very
is
much
true of
encouraged not to do.
everything.
Kind
That
of,
is
but like
true of
you're
all of the ARPGs. Like this, how is this a valid criticism?
It's so much easier to change from Marauder Demon Hunter to Shadow Demon Hunter than it is to change from Pole Druid to Twister Druid.
Okay, well that's a different point though.
Sure, but the aspect system makes it to where you're able to access Marauder very early in your character's lifespan, and you're locked into Marauder because of not being able to respec, and like you're going to be playing that for your character's entire life. Whereas granted, it's very quick in D3, but in something like PoE, where your gear changes meaningfully change the way that your character plays in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, getting a different, like Awaken Gem can like fundamentally change how your character plays. Getting a new item might allow you to fit another aura in, which doesn't really change the way that you play, but it changes the content that you can access.
You don't change the way you play past Act 5. So how's that different?
What?
In PoE?
PoE, most
Yeah.
builds fundamentally change how they play past Act 5. What? Most builds like use supplementary skills or add supplementary skills into their build, which like fundamentally it changes how they like fight a boss or single target. Like what? Way more than a D4.
Yeah, they do that in Act 6 as soon as they get to Nessa. I don't get that point. Like, they're midway through the campaign when they're pretty much not going to change, except for reservation adding auras. It doesn't matter to how you play your build.
I think there are more. Those are more meaningful changes than what you get in D4. Sure, I guess.
I think you get more meaningful
that's
changes in PoE
definitely
for like.
You get more meaningful changes in D4 after the campaign. There are build-defining uniques.
I played the same character on Sork from level 15 to level 100. Same build, same aspects. Everything was the same.
I mean,
There is no.
to play any of the endgame druid builds, you need to drop a unique, and then you're totally change after. Well, you change multiple skills on your 6 skill bar.
And then there's no
I
more
also think
upgrades
that
for you
is
past
true.
that.
I'm like,
I think that extreme of
gear that you're wearing, which is again true in any other ARPG that we play. I don't get how this is different.
the access to it is much earlier, is how it's different, for one. For two,
Well, I know several level 100 druids that haven't dropped the helm they need to play Tornado Druid.
This
but-
druid's loot table's
that's
fucked.
also a
That's an
problem.
exception.
it's also a problem that build enabling uniques. There's a difference between Temerity and the Werewolf Helm. In that Temerity makes your build stronger and enable you to do like a couple different things with your build, but it doesn't enable your build in the same way that the Werewolf Helm does. And I think that tying the build enablingness of that item behind something that is as random as the unique drops are, I don't think is great. I think there should be a way to have a pool of uniques that are build enabling and have them be more targetable. Whether that's through divination card system or through some sort of class quest where you're able to select one of these build enabling unique items, or the other end of it is that it takes way too long to get to where your build functions, and then that makes it to where you never get to make your build and feel good.
I played 3 different core skills and a RAS skill to 100. I changed my build at least 3 times.
Yeah, but you're not incentivized to do that. Like
I mean, you are if
It's
you know
not-
what you're doing. Like, I don't take eggs. I played the same build from 15 to 100 because I tried absolutely nothing else as
he played Fireball
gold.
once he got to 100.
which is unplayable, not a build. But it's because Sork's bad.
I played Lightning Storm, through the campaign. I played Trample Slide and Pulverize level, and near endgame I switched to Tornado. They all had their merits at different points, so I don't know. Totally different experience there. I had lots of different upgrade paths and build decisions, even on a smaller tree.
I think there's broader build decisions, but I don't think there's a few like micro build decisions, but I think like you're always taking the Vuln option on Tornado, for example. You're never taking the slow.
Yeah, that's actually not true.
Why would you ever take the slow?
As a stopgap early when you have exploit but need to proc something like an umbral. Basically, before you get the helmet, if you want to play Tornado Druid, you would have an umbral with that slow.
I don't think there's a situation where you'd ever, because you poison everything, and poison slows.
Yeah, when you crit, sure. I mean, there are like 3 or 4 other sources of Vuln in that build, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but Vuln is a lot better than slow, for one, and for two, you have a better source of slow in other places. That's like a lot easier to get. Yeah.
Less opportunity cost. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, why is that? That's just an example that shows up in other places as well, where it's like there's only 2 choices, but there's not really 2 choices. There's only 1 choice. It's like even with such limited choices, there are a lot of situations where we didn't actually get a choice.
Yeah. Okay. Counterpoint to that is, okay, they gave us 5 runes in D3.
Yeah, and we only
that was the illusion of choice.
Yeah, but the illusion of choice is
also, they were better in D3 because at least 3 of them were usable, so...
I mean, there was really only like 1 or 2.
I mean, early on in the game's life, there were like 3. But it got worse as things went on, but even at some points it didn't, because sometimes it opened back up to being... It was still like 2.
I don't think we needed 5 runes on these. This is what I'm saying.
No,
I think that was just bloat. But 2 is a little sparse.
I think the 2...
I don't care that it's 2. I just want to...
They somehow managed to make the 2 bloat, and that's worse.
No. They just gave you fewer choices, and you still chose the correct option. Like, there could be 3 other shit options on there. You're still gonna pick one and bitch about it in this regard.
No, because they could just make
Yes.
more of
But
them
if
good.
they would have made 2 and made 2 of them good, then I wouldn't be bitching in this specific way. I'm sure I would have other bitches, but that's just because I get so many bitches.
And there are skills that have 2 viable runes.
Yeah, but not as many as I would like.
None on the Sork tree. Maybe Sork's just that bad.
Well, again, you explored maybe a third of this tiny tree.
I planned out builds for every element and 2 in each element. And they're not even worth putting together because they fundamentally don't work because they didn't design the class well. Like, that's just how Sork is.
You did try to make a meteor.
And a better lightning version and a better firewall version. It's just like they're not playable. They're not in a playable state. They didn't design the class past ice shards and arc lash. And arc lash probably wasn't something they intended at all. It just ended up being a lucky hit bot for the other lightning skills.
I think you're misconstruing a balance issue for whether or not a build is complete. Like, and to be fair, if you didn't know, we're getting a hefty balance patch. Did you catch any of the campfire talk? Would have been Friday.
Yep.
I have a YouTube video on it.
Oh, okay, great. So you know that they're significantly adjusting the thing you're complaining about?
Well, maybe. They didn't give us any details on buffs.
Until I see the patch notes, they haven't done anything yet.
They did say that it was the time to buff things.
They did say that,
Yeah,
but they haven't shown that.
I haven't shown anything saying that. So till then, it's just in a bad spot. Why is there no lobby? There are no lobbies right now. Oh, I don't want to make one. Also said it might not be till season 1. I mean, yeah, there's also that. Also, some of the changes won't be coming till season 2.
Some of the changes won't be coming until season 2. It will be nice to teleport directly to a nightmare dungeon and to skip the more bullshit parts of the renown. But that is not what they said. So, I mean, the balance patch is coming prior to season 1. They did let slip one time in that interview that it would be in July, but they definitely assured it would be prior to season 1.
Again, until they give a date, it's like we can only pray, I guess, that they keep with their word.
I guess they've literally not given you a reason to mistrust them with that information, but sure.
I mean, they did say we'd have a gym tab, and we don't have a gym tab.
When did they say that?
And they said it during the first beta, the double down beta. They said it then before the second beta, and they said it before the closed beta. That was that last 2-week one, and then it still wasn't at launch. So
And then they said it at the campfire thing, scheduled for season 2. Actually, their solution for it is to not give you a tab, but to put them in the crafting materials,
which is essentially a tab.
Yeah.
It's good enough. I think the reason to not trust the balance is the balance that we have right now. For Sork specifically, and then for the other classes as well, where like I think Druid's good.
Druid is fine. There's 4 or 5 viable rogue builds. Woody and
What are the 4 or 5 viable rogue builds?
I don't know. Let's go to the tier list and see. I know there's like 5 rogue archetypes that are in A tier or better. They could just be fanboying, but as far as I understand it, almost everything's playable for rogue.
I watched Rudy's videos and it looks fucking awful, but that's just because nothing looks good other than Druid. When you compare everything to Tornado Man running around.
Yeah, am I the only one that's not dick hard about the Tornado Druid?
I'm also not dick hard about the Tornado Druid.
I get that it's the strongest. I also don't think it's the fastest for almost anything. I think
Okay.
Pulverize literally clears shit faster.
It just
like
it
Pulv.
just
I'm a
plays the
Church of
smoothest.
Pulv.
It just looks like it plays the smoothest out of all of them.
Yeah, and then you realize how much time you wait for tornadoes to go and hit things.
Yeah, I really wish they had made the Seek power also give it like 300% movement speed. That'd be great. Because like it does
I
really
run
well.
fast. I run fast pack to pack, but by the time I'm getting to a pack and filling the screen with tornadoes, Pulverize is already looting that.
I know
pack.
Dirty Boy's played a lot of different rogue builds. He says they're playable, but rogue functions the same no matter what core skill you use.
Yeah, and like that's the big problem. It's not that there's not, or is that sure there could be a lot of builds, but like Barb has quote a lot of builds, but it's really the same build. It's the shouts.
Well, Barb
And
really doesn't have a lot of builds. They have like one,
I guess,
two. They have Whirlwind, Hoda, and Get Fucked.
and Thorns.
Thorns
Oh,
is by
wow.
far the best build out of them all.
Yeah,
Watch Wario clap some cheeks on Thorns.
that's absolutely untrue, but
Thorns looks so imbalanced.
Thorns is imbalanced for PvP, and that is the end of the list for what Thorns is good at.
Wario
Really?
would fight
Wario was like smashing 90s.
Smashing 90s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just doing like just literally
On stream.
literally just AFK smashing them. Like it's not a fair like Thorns is by far the most broken Barb.
Smashing 90s on stream. Let's go to the tape.
I know he was doing. Yeah, he was doing lower
63.
because he wanted to get his glyphs up. But he was definitely doing some 90s somewhere in there.
Invite me, what the fuck, guys? Hello.
59, 63. I don't know. Good fish for these, but. Also, did I like stop following Wario? Where was I? I didn't see him stream at all.
He's been streaming a lot. I haven't talked to him in like 4 days, so I don't know what he's been doing. But like 4 days ago, he was in 90s. Just like laughing, like drunk laughing at how easy the game was, so. And he had played the other Barb builds beforehand. And he hadn't even finished his Thorns build and was just like laughing how easy shit was. Some aspects always feel smooth because no matter what build you play, it plays out the same. It's a good thing or a bad thing. I think that's can look
Bad
like a
thing.
good thing on the outside, but it's actually really bad.
So yeah, Barb build diversity pretty scarce. I don't know if
Like Rogues,
are on the copium. They say Rogue's fine.
like playing a lot of skills doesn't necessarily like if all the skills play pretty much the same, then like
It's better off than Wizard is.
sure, but like I don't know that that's good.
I mean, it's not good. It's just not as bad
So I
as it
think
gets. I
Druid-
guess.
Druid almost has that problem. Like the builds play differently. Pulv definitely plays differently than Tornado, but it's kind of close. Like there's no difference between like God Demon Hunter versus Marauder Demon Hunter versus Natalia's. Like those are wildly different playstyles, and Pulv Druid is different than Twister, but it's not that different. Especially if you're playing the Earth and Might Twister.
Okay. I don't know what you're looking for beyond that kind of a difference. Those seem to play. Play similarly is not how I would think to ever describe those two builds.
I mean, they're more similar than D3 builds are.
I don't even know if I agree with that.
Both of them are you activate Grizzly Rage, and then you are clumping up your mobs and then throwing your spirit into them, hoping that you get Earth and Might procs to keep throwing your spirit into them. Very reductive, but the supplementary stuff feels different. Like Bloodhowl feels very different than Trample, obviously.
Yeah, and clearing the screen in one shot from a distance feels different than walking up to mobs and farting on them.
Yeah, but that's not always the case. Pulve can take multiple pulves to kill things. And Tornado can take, well, always takes multiple tornadoes to kill things. That conclusion might come from me playing unoptimized Pulve and a more optimized Tornado, where I'm seeing the similarities between them, but
Or maybe
I
lucky.
mean,
But
it's
then
fair to say that.
there's also Trample Slide.
Yeah, I didn't play that.
Trample slide does look different than the others.
Trample Slide does look very different though from what I saw you playing of it, so that's fair.
What else?
I think like Druid is good.
That's
I think Druid is good. So like,
got Shred and Claw. Those are pretty similar to each other, but otherwise not very similar to the other two.
yeah. But I mean, Druid has good build diversity, and none of the other class. Well, maybe Necro. I don't know. I think Necro's builds are
Necro has
Bone Spear and Bone
Bone
Spear.
Spear, and now what they're calling Infinimist, which basically means you're infinitely in Blood Mist and untargetable.
We already had this build. This isn't a new build.
Not from like closed beta, no, but I mean it is different than Bone Sphere and Bone Spirit.
Bone Spirit,
True.
Bone Spirit
Pretty similar.
play exactly the same according to Ziach. So. But
I think the way they detonate's pretty
Want there
different.
to be a minion build, and there probably will be, but there's not
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And then there's Blight. That's pretty different.
But it's not a good build.
Well, you have to assume that there will be balance changes.
Yeah.
As we've been promised balance changes.
And I hope we do get balance changes and these different archetypes can show up and actually be good, but
Like I would love to see
that's
a
not the way it
companion,
is right now.
but that is not a thing.
Right. I don't know that we get to complain as Druid spoiler. I think we get to to have our build diversity and laugh at Barb.
But I guess I could see where you come up with Twisting Blades feels pretty similar to Barrage. I don't know how you put Pen Shot in that same bubble.
I'm just going off what other people say, so
I could see or any of the trappers. And so, have you guys seen the Earth and Bulwark build?
no.
It's a fun one.
I mean, if it's a Druid build, then it's good. That's the way it works.
well, they fixed Druid's loot table.
Well, Earth and Bulwark is hitting for tens of millions of damage and waltzing through hundreds right now.
Demon's energy is resonating.
It's basically the same trample side mechanic with Nature's Fury,
Them simultaneously.
except that it's Bulwark.
And whenever it ends, it pops.
or if you cast it
If
again.
you activate it again, yeah.
I played that
problem
build in
here-
Wilson.
The problem here is that it is very obviously doing bug damage.
Yeah?
Ooh, just like the one in Wilson. This is funny because we played the exact same build. There was a build in Wilson that was out when the game started where you it was called Iron Bulwark, you would stack a bunch of multipliers that didn't work correctly, and when you stacked the the number high enough, the game freaked out. I would just hit
I
for.
don't understand. Like, this is very different. This is earthen bulwark, not iron bulwark.
Yeah, but what happened is when it would expire, it would
Yeah,
explode.
it's very different.
Or when you cast it again, it would overwrite and detonate, and it just did like bugged overflow damage.
There are means
very
to
different.
scale. There are means to scale Earthen Bulwark, like life and barrier generation.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same way you did it. This sounds like a Wilson. Did they take this build from Wilson? It's the same exact way that worked. That's funny.
I don't think they intended this build.
Yeah, I don't think they intended it. They didn't intend it in Wilson either. But
Problem is that in addition to the intended multipliers, it is also just randomly scaling off monster HP.
oh, that's the same way it worked. Holy shit! How did they come? This must just be.
They must have hired the
There must
Wilson
be.
guy.
This is some sort of weird ass bug that happens when you try to make a shield do damage or something. Gotta be some sort of like the programmers talk to each other. They'd be like, "Dude, I should have seen that coming, bro."
The guy at Blizzard, he just went online to look up the code, and he found the code that the Wilson guy posted to.
God, that build was so fucking
Get him.
stupid. And whenever you killed a mob with it, it gave you like ramping move speed, so you just fucking fly. But if you missed, the one difference I think it did have is it took 80% of your life or something to cast. So like if you missed, you'd just be like no life. That was funny. Good shit.
And to be honest, it might be a good build to anyway, once they remove that interaction. But it's not one of those things I myself or anybody else on my team is about to sit and devote 12 hours to writing.
Well, you just asked ChatGPT to write it for you.
Yeah, I don't know if it could handle that.
You just feed it some of your other articles, and then, in the style of this article, write one for Earthen Bulwark. It could do it.
Yeah, I could definitely do it.
I think it would absolutely shit the bed trying to do any of the embeds that we have, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Where we get the words.
Or skill selection, or stat priority, or basically any of the other content of a guide, I think it would just miss.
Well, what if it didn't, though? And then you did all your work, and then you turned it in and was like, hey, I did it.
Might be next level for a Paragon board if you gave it the right parameters, but
Did you see Dodo's dog slurping spaghetti board?
I did not.
It's good as a dog slurping spaghetti. I don't know if you ascertained that from my description.
That's cool.
It's a druid board. It's actually a functional board. It just happens to look like a dog slurping spaghetti.
Got it.
Alright, Dirty, but that sounds like a problem with those skills rather than the core skills. Sounds like you just need to nerf imbuements more than they already have.
Or buff everything else.
Well, no, because imbuements are an augmentation of your core skills. And
Yeah, that's why you buff the core skills, or you don't need the imbuement, and then yeah, we're perfect. We're balancing.
you take the imbuement anyway then, but
Shit. What do you mean we can't make this number big enough that the multiplier gets outscaled? Unfortunately.
the bow generators are the most likely things. Well, that's not true, because Twisting Blades has a Nightmare tier 100, but bow builds stand a pretty good shot at the highest tier dungeons, because range. At least that's what, well, I mean, Woody and Dockside have cleared Nightmare 100, just not since release. Puncture is problematic for the regen part. It gives too much of that.
Or the other ones give not enough. I know nothing about Rogue.
Well, yeah,
Buffs,
I mean, it's like Storm Strike on Druid. Like there's a clear winner in the Druid basic skills too.
Yeah, Poop Pillar.
So you sticking a rock up the mob's butt?
I love Food Pillar.
Strike's so good though.
Or did you consider Bear Slap? Bear Big Dumb Animation Lock Slap. Pretty good.
How about shit useless ice bolt or shit useless flame bolt? Oh, did I forget about shit useless lightning bolt? And then there's the Giga Chad lightning slap.
And I mean, I guess you could technically say, oh, Claw has a unique, and so Claw is an entire build, but you would be right, and that doesn't prove my point right now.
But
So
do not worry. I will be by your side.
Oh yeah, the profile. Shadow Hunter.
And I would point out to you that that is a build because Claw also casts Storm Strike.
Yeah, I think this whole gives you DR on your auto attack when none of the other ones do. Might be kind of tough.
PR and applies
Immobilizes and
Yeah.
Volans.
and immobilizes. So this
Yeah.
lets CC reduce your damage and increase their damage taken. You want it? Yeah, I'll take it.
Well, your other option is Poop Pillar, which. Okay. Did I mention the animation locking Bear Slap? Which has.
I'd literally take
even
your bear
less
slap
range.
over my fucking firebolt attack.
It's so bad. You don't understand it. It's
Hell, you
so
don't understand how bad
bad.
firebolt is.
Maybe I don't.
Oh, and then I can tell you about its fucking twin brother, Frostbolt. Literally the same ability reskin. It's actually just recolored. It's not even. It doesn't even have any. It does not operate differently at all. It is the same ability recolored.
Yeah, Sork might have been a little undercooked.
You know what,
True.
though? Dirty Whirlwind Barbs should be complaining about resource. Because
But why? Whirlwind's supposed to be the build where you hit one button and spin. Like
I think it's pretty
literally like the
much
classic.
a staple of you just hold down Drool and spin win.
And like you make the build interesting by having it like, maybe like set up other buffs before spinning or set up other buffs during spinning, but like you don't stop the spinning on a Whirlwind Barb. Like they're supposed to keep spinning.
That's what they want to do.
yeah, I don't know why you don't like Barb. They're super OP. Now that I think about it. They
I mean,
are.
I can understand not like Barb. They're OP, but they're also like shouts, and the shouts don't feel very good. Yeah.
To put it the way Wario said, is that the skills are good, or like the skills are okay, but like it just feels like you can just like he went Thorns because you can just do less effort on Thorns and just get the same result or better. Barb, like you have to put a lot of effort to keep the barbs like it's like a wind up toy. You gotta constantly keep winding it up for all the skills. It did seem to be appear what Rob was doing. He was basically going like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can do something for a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can do something for a couple seconds. Whereas Wario on Thorns kind of looked like he was just actual turbo brain off.
And I think that's a design philosophy.
What's feel good is that they get
Ish.
procs or have 80% RCR.
How?
I think it's a design philosophy issue of I think the devs want you to have downtime. I don't think that they like that Polv can just go pull, come out of dire grizzly bear form ready to be entered again. Go
don't
in.
Care that you had that. I just think they want you to give up something to be able to do that. Which, by the way, Barbs can also do. They can get that resource management to Whirlwind forever. It just takes a lot.
They could not maintain their shouts.
They can come pretty close. It depends on density.
I guess.
Literally depends on density because one of their glyphs is cooldown reduction if per mob near you when you cast one.
You have to snapshot Whirlwind though. What Dirty Boy saying? I mean, Irma was playing it and it was not. He said it was not possible to keep up. Like it's literally they nerfed it, so it's impossible. But with really good gear, and that appeared to be what Rob was saying also after nerfs. Pre-nerfs, Barb was like the builds just played good, but I don't know why. Like they nerfed Barb in the midst of all the exploits going on, all the bugs and exploits happening with it. But like I think that the fact that their shouts could be kept up was like why Barbarian felt really good to play, and like taking that away was a really big hit to like what people want out of Barbarian.
They dealt the biggest blow to that even prior to release.
Yeah.
Shout cooldown reduction used to be a roll on gear and wasn't on release.
Yeah, but even on release, it was still acceptable because if you got enough with a good enough cooldown, you got really good gear with the it was the glyph, right? The glyph or the aspect, or both. You could get uptime, but now it is not obtainable. There are gaps no matter what you try to do, which is just like, why have gap? I work this hard to gear my character.
Kind of strange to think if they'd have left the glyphs anywhere near. By the way, they went.
Yeah.
The glyph thing, those went on a journey because they got buffed. If you didn't know, right before release.
They got Giga Godded.
And I don't think anybody was expecting that buff. It was super weird because like you were already looking at 5 and 6 glyph, 7 glyph boards. You know, people were already stretching to get them, and then they buffed them, and I was real confused. And then they nerfed them, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. Whoops, should have hit the negative key. Because like in both before the buffs and after the buffs, it was like not worth to go out of your way for legendary nodes. And then
Still not on sword. Never was, never will be, till they rework them, all of them. They're bad.
There's only a few good legendary nodes. There's like 3.
There's literally not one
Maybe
good one on
4?
sword.
that is more than most classes now.
Yeah, I get that, but like, I don't know.
Like the glyphs pre-nerf were the only way that other sword builds were going to like work. Like it would have made like the fireball build do enough damage to like be acceptable even through its clunky that nerf was not needed for my class.
There would be so many builds shitting on all the content if
That's
they left the glyphs out.
fine. That's how an ARPG is supposed to work.
No.
Yes.
No.
Why not? Why would you spend hundreds of hours grinding a game to get nowhere? Like, at the end of the journey...
You can still do the thing. You just have to actually work at it now. It would be piss easy otherwise.
No! For most people, it still wouldn't be. Like, the glyphs could have stayed exactly how they were. And it would the game would just be better.
Like, I don't know. If you had a hard mode raid that was just coming out, but your character did 60% more damage than it does as you go into that hard mode fight.
You don't want to do this, spoiler.
I mean, I know what Egg's answer is going to be. He's just stupid for it.
No, it's just how people want to play the game.
It is a legitimate. So the issue exists right now in Lost Ark that the current hard mode Belshazzar, the last gates, are too difficult and no one does them because they're not worth doing. And if our characters were stronger, just innately, then that would make them worth doing because we would be able to be strong enough to just do them forehead, or at least the community would have that perception. So like, people do want to just win.
Yeah, people literally want the raids in Lost Ark to just be like 50% easier, so like they can actually like just chill and clear them because like that's the point of playing a game where you're scaling a character's power is to get to the point where your character just wins and never loses.
Challenged by nothing.
Yes, that's especially RPG. That's the whole reason why. That's the ARPG fantasy. That is I have a headhunter, I've got temp chains, I killed 2 rare packs, I am an unstoppable demigod, you are not stopping me. I have spent all of this time, I've learned how to play the game, spent all these things, I've done everything. I'm at the point I want to just win and never lose. That is...
Well, like I said, you can still absolutely get there.
But not on like 90% of the things, and it's just tedious. Like, it's just more tedious now. Like, why have that? Like,
Yeah, 90% of the builds in other ARPGs can't go do temp chains, headhunter bullshit either.
And that's because PoE also went the wrong direction. They started taking things out.
Dirty Sork killed Lilith in less than 2 minutes. So, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's an exploit build. It's going to be nerfed. Yeah, it shouldn't be. Like, it's it's an example of like that's fine for it to have done that to Lilith. Like, that's the point of building that character. Like, by the time you have a level 100 character in the game, you should be able to. By the time you have a level 100 character and you've spent the time grinding 21 glyphs, any build, any skill should just crush the game. You should just be rolling over, and especially if your gear stats are right, you should just be rolling over everything, not giving a care in the world. Just absolute monster destruction, loot popping out. Like, there's no reason for it not to be, because that's what everybody wants to get to.
I think that shouldn't be every portion of the game. I think that there should be.
That's the dungeon portion of the game.
There should be portions of the game that you want to be in grinding. That you are that god striding the earth.
Alright, we got any more D4 Bastion to get through?
Yes, in fact.
Okay.
Why is it that projectiles get
Why does the wall stop me now?
by walls? I can almost understand. But
And
by monsters,
mob hitboxes,
I
dude.
get big mad.
That destroyed my fireball build.
Explain, Boiler. Tell me the server architecture.
Are you asking me why we don't have infinite pierce?
No,
I'm
it's
asking
literally
you
that.
why I am on top of a mob and I cast Whirlwind. My druid with his bear paw tries to jerk off the mob, and he doesn't spawn a tornado because the mob eats the tornado and it doesn't do anything.
You can. If
Any
you watch
projectile.
a VOD of me playing Fireball, it's very obvious. Notably, it also happens with ice shards, but you shoot so many, it can kind of go past. You can go past it, but it still happens. You still lose about a fourth of your damage and density to this bug, which is something that nobody really talks about, but it's a problem.
Like, especially like suppressor mobs are really bad for this, because if you're in the suppressor bubble, sometimes they'll just eat your, like, you'll just be sitting there holding down your button,
This is
and
a
your druid will be sitting there, your wolf will be just fucking jerking off the bubble, and he won't be spawning any tornadoes because they're all being eaten.
Why did I just watch the Paladin? Paladin have like some sort of like flip move? What the fuck did he just do? Does he have a roll?
You let him be, okay?
It's Afro doing some fucking maneuvers.
That does sound like a problem. I don't know if I would highlight the affix that eats projectiles as...
Oh no, it just amplifies the problem.
It just amplifies the annoyance.
Right, yeah, this way.
Because I'm inside the suppressor field, and it's still eating my shit.
Because the mob hitbox is colliding.
Alright, this has brought up another complaint. Why do we not have a pet that can pick up gold for us? Or at the very least, a bigger pickup radius?
Hey, where's my pickup radius stat? I've only used this fucking stats they put into one bucket. Where's my fucking pickup radius bucket?
I would also like some pickup radius.
Like that's just like something like they learned that people wanted that. Like they know that's something that's a people like that in their game thing.
I'll take a pet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll settle for a pet.
Can I get my wolf cub off of my back and have him go
Perform
get
manual
gold for me?
labor.
Exactly. Another great point, Dirty Boy. On the Animus balls specifically, it's pretty egregious. But even in other dungeon types as well. They learned the lesson in Diablo 3 that if you continue going forward, it's better. You go forward, there's more than enough stuff to complete the dungeon. But in the Animus ones, or the Free the Prisoner ones, or any dungeon objective, you have to do exactly the amount that is required is exactly the amount that spawns.
I'll do you one better with the backtracking. They have it's obviously been massively reported, they've acknowledged it, and they have made quote-unquote adjustments to fix it already that they felt were sufficient.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Obviously that's incorrect, but...
Yeah, they were like, oh, look at our big post from between betas. We think that these changes are going to be massive and players are going to... Like, we've provided sufficient adjustment. Where the backtracking feels just as bad as it did in Beta 1. Except for that one notable dungeon in Fractured Peaks they fixed, which is where I think they look, the only place they looked, because that was all that was tested during our open betas, at least. They were like, this one dungeon is really bad. What if we just didn't fix the other ones?
But again, ultimately, I'm hopeful for the game. I think I'm rooting for the game to be good. I want the game to be good.
Definitely don't want it to be bad. It's definitely not something I want.
Yeah. A little bit of hopium, though. Just a touch of opium would be nice.
I know I do have hopium. It's just not immediate hopium. But that's because Blizzard is not fast. And we all know that. So.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And my biggest fear is that they're going to continue to try to court this broader audience target and not invest more into their core demographic. But I think they can do both. And I think that they will come to find that it is the core demographic that sticks with the game.
And
I'm not sure how important that sticking with the game is going to be, because I do think that the broader audience demographic will show up, will buy the battle pass season after season, and
yeah, everybody will do the seasonal thing. That's Diablo.
Yeah, but I don't know. I hope that we don't.
Wake me up in season 18. Okay, I'll give you a call back.
I hope that we don't have to play PoE. I hope that.
Well, I'm playing PoE for sure.
Well, no, but like, long term. I hope that long term PoE isn't the better option.
Oh yeah, especially when it gets to PoE too.
Alright guys, have a good night. I gotta go.
Good night, brother.